Welcome back to the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast. With you as always, Jeff Chadiha from the NFL Network, NFL.com. Sam McDowell from the Kansas City Star. My name is Soren Petro from Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. We're talking Chiefs football here as we get ready for the Chiefs' first preseason game. Patrick Mahomes is having a fantastic camp. What does that mean? Is this a reason to believe that a magical season is right around the corner? Kristian Fulton returned to practice. Who could play their way onto this roster? Who needs to play well to stay on the roster? Who should play the most snaps on Saturday? Will the Chiefs need to add to this roster at the cutdown? You know, they picked up Samaje Perine, Juju Smith-Schuster late in camp. They're going to need to do that again this year. Travis Kelce maybe shrugging off retirement, and predictions for our under-the-radar player that might come away from maybe making the biggest impression in this game. We'll be talking about it right here, right now on the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast.
You are listening to the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Chiefs on planet Earth, breaking down the Chiefs like no one else can. Red, Gold, and Bold is hosted by Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro. Jeff Chadiha is a senior columnist and on-air personality for the NFL Network and NFL.com. Sam McDowell is a columnist for the Kansas City Star. Soren Petro is the afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. The Red, Gold, and Bold podcast is proudly brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. Now, here are the hosts of the Best Chiefs podcast, Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro. All
right, thank you very much, Curtis. We do appreciate it. Off and running here on the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast. Let's get started. Patrick Mahomes, Sam, having a great camp, right? By a lot of people's account. I know you as well. Feel like he has really looked sharp. How important is this? What does this mean to the Chiefs this year? What are you taking away from this?
Yeah, I think there's a correlation that I'm curious with whether or not it'll pan out, because this last week, and this might sound like hyperbole, it's the best I've ever seen Patrick Mahomes practice this last week. And if not for the chaos at left tackle last year and the intrigue about a rookie taking over that position, or the constant intrigue, I guess, in wide receiver in this town, I think that the only thing we'd be talking about is Patrick Mahomes. It's just that he's done this for 8 years, so people think it should be what should be expected. But he's been unbelievable for this last week. And what really stands out, I mean, first of all, he threw a behind-the-back pass the other day and hit somebody on the run with it. He threw a no-look pass. That's the stuff I think catches like fans' attention. The thing that's really caught my attention is he's been throwing a lot of tight window throws to wide receivers and completed them. He threw a ball to Tyquan Thornton on Sunday, I believe it was. It might have been Tuesday, where Shamari Connor had absolute perfect coverage on him, but had his back to him. And so he threw the ball and it almost hit Shamari Connor in the shoulder, and somehow it was there for Tyquan Thornton. And it was Sunday where he threw a ball directly over Jack Cochran's helmet. It almost scraped his helmet right into the hands of Noah Gray. These are tight window throws. And so I asked him today at camp, I said, are you doing this because it's camp and you can get away with stuff at camp? The consequences aren't there at camp because the interceptions don't matter. Or is this something you want to try and carry over to the regular season? He didn't exactly answer that question. He took it as a deep passing game question. And I'm talking more about 10-yard throws, 15-yard throws. That's the correlation I'm eager to see, because the player I've seen in camp can make these throws, and he needs to make more of them. Last year, Patrick Mahomes threw the fewest percentage of tight window throws of anybody in the NFL. He was the most risk-adverse quarterback in the NFL. And I think for this offense to be a top 5 offense again, he's got to be comfortable taking those risks. And like I continue to say, in this camp, those risks are paying off for him. And maybe that instills the confidence in him that he can be this quarterback.
Why do you think he wasn't taking those throws, Sam?
So he disagreed with me when I asked that and said that, it's just basically been the last couple of years that he hasn't done that. To be clear, his whole career, he has not been a risk taker as a quarterback when it comes to throwing in tight windows. Yes, he used to throw the deep ball more frequently than he does, but he still wasn't the guy that was throwing he's not Aaron Rodgers throwing back shoulder fades. I mean, he doesn't like throwing to guys in coverage. And so that's what, to me, and that's the way I phrased a follow-up question. I said, is this going to be a mental adjustment for you? He doesn't seem to think it will be. I do think he's going to have to train his brain to think this guy doesn't look open, but it might be better than punting here. And it was 2 years ago where he actually used the phrase, we can punt. I think that was a credit. That was he was trying to compliment the defense. I think he's got to revert back and say, the offense has been 15th in points and 15th in points. If you want to start scoring points the way you used to, guys aren't open the way they used to be, and you might have to take some more chances than you're accustomed to.
Sam picking a fight with the quarterback.
Yeah. Wise at this point in your career, Sam.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
All
right.
What do you make of him playing at a high level this early, Jeff?
I mean, I think I have not watched him as much as Sam has over the course of his career, so I don't have that context to fall back on. I feel like he probably has practiced pretty well throughout his career. What I read in some of his comments was that he's approached this season with the mindset of trying to dominate every rep, trying to be dominant every day, and consciously making that effort to really be at a high level. And I do think that quarterbacks, once they get to 30, I've always referenced what Steve Young said to me about playing quarterback in the NFL is like once you get to into your 30s, you actually know what you're doing. And the question is, how long can you keep your body going to take advantage of that? And so usually by 34, 35, you see guys really they've seen it all. And so I imagine he's probably going through that same maturation process where he's seeing more things, he's more aware of more things, and more aware of what he needs to do to improve his play. I do think that for a quarterback who came in the league with a label of being, a little Brett Favre-ish, a little reckless, that maybe he's gone too far to try to be more of a guy who's not going to make the big mistake and not get out of control. And he understands there's different ways to win games. But I get what Sam's saying, but I also feel like this team is different now. And part of his throwing in tight windows or being more conservative has more to do with what's been around him than it has to be with, I think, his mentality. So I think there is a combination of him trying to do more, but also recognizing he's got to trust the people around him a lot more to be that kind of quarterback.
Yeah. Sam, is he getting the ball out quicker? I'm curious because is part of it that, and is he not escaping, right? Like, I don't mean when somebody's right in his face and he has to go, but is he just going ahead and in rhythm, in tempo, making more of those throws? Like, okay, the time for the ball to come out is now, instead of being like, I don't love what I see, so I'm going to evade. I'm going to trust my feet, which I know I can make some plays. And then I'm going to wait till somebody finally breaks wide open and I'll throw it. Is he more delivering the ball within the timing of what it would be and saying, well, he's not wide open, but I'm going to put it where he can get it?
I mean, I would say yes, but the pass rush isn't nearly live like it is in a regular season game. So
that's why I'm wondering, is he forcing himself, because he could just stand there all day if he wanted to. Is he forcing himself to go ahead and deliver the ball regardless?
Yeah, I mean, Patrick Mahomes has a different way of approaching those situations than Gardner Minshew has been scrambling an awful lot at camp. Patrick Mahomes just kind of dirts the ball when he feels like that's too long. That's a sack. So his are more obvious is what I'm saying. It's not, okay, I get to scramble here and now try and make a play. And he hasn't done that a ton. I also think his offensive line's been better than what it was at camp a year ago. So it has that same caveat of it's tough to put it in the proper context, which is, I think he'll play one series. Even if Andy says he's going to play a quarter, my guess is it's a series on Saturday. And even that series, if it's 3 dropbacks, are, more highly graded dropbacks than any dropback he's had in training camp.
You think there's any chance, Jeff, that Andy says, come on, let's go get it, guys. Let's go. He tries to turn up the tempo on the offense by saying, let's go down and let's put one in and call some stuff to like get them starting to feel good about themselves, because I think there is maybe a little bit of a psyche rebuild that has to happen with this offense.
There is, but there's also the reality of you don't want people to get hurt. And I think they've had some considerable injuries in the at least last year, with Hollywood Brown going down. You've got, Rashee Rice coming back from an injury. Hollywood Brown's still hurt now. I think that's going to factor into how much he wants to be aggressive. I mean, Andy Reid's always been a master of holding stuff back and knowing what he wants to use in week 1, week 2, week 3. I don't think that you're going to see him try to make a big statement in week 1. I think it's more about let's just be crisp. Let's be efficient. Let's get out of here and let the backups play.
Yeah, I mean, Andy Reid thinks that the second preseason game is the one that matters. And he came darn close to just basically saying that today in a way that I hadn't heard him say it, which is somebody asked him about what do you want to get the starters out of what do you want to see from the starters before you get them out of the game? And his answer was, well, we have more games left. And we've seen that he plays the starters in the second to last game, and now, in which case is also the second game overall with only 3 preseason games. So I don't think he's going to have that mindset. I also anticipate there's going to be a lot of starters who aren't playing. And so even if you wanted to impress upon that confidence that you're talking about, Soren, Rashee Rice has missed this week of practice with a groin injury. He's not going to be playing on Saturday. Jeff mentioned it. Hollywood Brown's not going to be playing on Saturday. I don't know that we'll see Travis Kelce. I think what we'll see, and the important thing is he's playing behind this offensive line in live reps for the first time, because I expect those guys minus Juwan Taylor to play.
You see chemistry with is how much of this, like him throwing the ball into the tighter windows, is a matter of he's built some chemistry with the receivers?
A ton. Like, I would not have anticipated that he made that throw to Tyquan Thornton. I'm talking about to Marquez Valdes-Scantling or Sky Moore. I don't think that he ever developed a trust that those guys were going to be where he thought they were going to be. With MVS, I think a lot of it was not trust that he's going to track the ball in the air and make an adjustment if an adjustment needed to be made in the air. And so, that absolutely is a major component of it, which is what I talked about in the summer. If you guys remember, these receivers coming back is a big deal, that he's not learning these guys for the first time. Whatever you think of their talent, whether or not they could have gotten better at this position, like him knowing who these guys are is a big deal.
Yeah, I would agree. Kristian Fulton is back at practice, Jeff. 17 games now. Are you on team Kristian now?
16 and a half over under.
Yeah, I'm still on the low end of that. I don't think he's going to play an entire season, and I'm curious to see. I mean, I think even Steve Spagnuolo acknowledged at the time he missed has been a big deal, for him and for his place in this defense and what they want to accomplish. And when your defensive coordinator is coming out and saying that, it's a factor. Kristian Fulton is not Patrick Surtain. You just don't plug him in and play. I think he's got to be somebody who knows what Steve Spagnuolo wants to do and what other guys are doing, the strengths of this defense. And that time is, I think Sam said wasn't involved in the team stuff yet, so he's got to ramp back up and get involved. And we also don't know how healthy he's going to be. A guy coming off knee surgery, is he going to be able to be that effective? And I've always counseled against not betting on guys like that. So I don't think he's going to start a whole lot of games. I don't think he's going to play a whole lot of games. I think he's going to get hurt again.
Yeah. What does it mean to you, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, Jeff preaching caution, I think, is the right message here. But I think the Chiefs, the direction they take it, can dictate how many games he plays. I don't think the Chiefs should be prioritizing having Kristian Fulton for week 1. I think they should be prioritizing having him in week 18, having him in the first round of the playoffs, and recognizing that even though you gave this guy money, even though your best lineup, you want to put your best foot forward in the opener, and that, let's face it, is going to be watched by as many people I think have ever watched a regular season game when it's for free on YouTube. I think there's some enticement to have the actual absolute best performance you can have. And I think it's becoming clearer and clearer that the best plan with Kristian Fulton might be to give him more time. And we are still a month shy of that September 5th date in Brazil. But we saw Jared Wiley come back from knee surgery and then have to sit out 3 days because his knee was swelling. we don't know how his knee's going to respond to contact drills, which he's not yet participated in. And I think that given the injury history that Jeff mentioned, that their priority should not be, let's see if he can get out there for week one. And I think there's going to be the impulse to do that.
Yeah. I think it's important. We've talked about what he can do. I mean, your medical people are your medical people, though, right? Like, if they say he can go, he can go. Or are you suggesting that whatever they say, go even longer?
I just think first of all, the ramp up period now is required, but by the NFL rules. But I think that's going to be important. What I'm saying is, like, Jared Wiley's back now, for example. I would tell you Jared Wiley does not look like himself in training camp. And so he may be cleared medically. I don't think the player looks like himself. And I think you could get into that possibility with Kristian Fulton, given that he's got an extra layer beyond Jared Wiley, which is he's learning this defense for the first time as well. And I've heard good things about the study that Kristian Fulton has done while hurt. But to me, the emphasis of that sentence is while hurt. Like, he's not been on the field to take these reps live.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we want to get into who is going to need to play their way onto the roster, who needs to play well to stay on the roster. We're going to talk about all that after you hear from our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews. Every project comes with a written warning. Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, serving KC for more than 40 years, voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers, helping people with serious injuries from car accidents, work accidents, falls, and other personal injuries. Northland Injury Law doesn't get paid unless they get money for their client. Don't wait, get compensated now. If you have a case, text HURT to 22222. That's HURT to 22222, or call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-4878. The choice of a lawyer is an important one and should not be based solely upon advertisements. All right, let's talk a little bit about who could play their way onto the roster. Who is somebody you think, Jeff, that could play their way onto the roster?
Well, it seems like Tyquan Thornton is the prime example of somebody who could do that. And I know that we have heard what people thought about him in New England as being a training camp sensation, but I think there's a real opening for him that wasn't there initially. Now, maybe he's probably on the roster given what they have, but I think he's legitimately in the running with Hollywood Brown being banged up, with Rashee Rice facing a suspension. It just feels as if there's an opportunity there for him. And Jalen Royals, as promising as he can be, it doesn't seem like he's grabbed hold of the opportunity. So I think Tyquan Thornton is certainly in a great position to be on this roster if he does the right things in these preseason games.
Yeah, I think Tyquan Thornton is a guy that, you got to keep going. It really sounds like he's on the roster, right? I think, Sam, you would agree. We both feel like he's there now. You got a guy that you think is, I think he's an excellent guy. I think everyone needs to watch him because I think they've got a package of plays for him in their mind. So I think Tyquan Thornton's a good name to be watching in this preseason game. Who do you think could play their way onto the roster?
Yeah, I mean, Jeff's right about Thornton. First of all, I agree. Like, he's squarely on the roster now, but given the fact that the question with Tyquan Thornton has always been whether or not he can do it with pads on, with contact, that is still a guy who I think needs to perform in the games themselves too. A guy who I think is not, I would not project on the 53-man today that I think I could change my mind about in 2 weeks is Esa Pole, spelled like Pole, P-O-L-E, a tackle that to me reminds me of this Ethan Driscoll path from a year ago where you like his size, you like maybe his potential and think, if we let that guy go, somebody else is going to take him. Pole has an interesting story that he didn't start playing football until college. And he was at Washington State, an undrafted free agent. And so I think you look at a guy like that and think he's got room to get a whole lot better, that you feel like he hasn't tapped into his potential yet. And I've seen him get some reps with the twos, like quite a few reps with the twos at both tackle positions, but specifically left tackle. And I've seen him get some left tackle reps with Wanya Morris at right tackle with the twos. And so I think he's got a real chance to make the 53-man. And that's not a guy heading into training camp that I think even their personnel staff would have said that guy's going to make our 53.
Yeah.
That one's sorry, Sven. That one's particularly for you, who will be watching all the linemen until that time.
Sure, I absolutely will.
His whiteboard and his spreadsheet.
And I think there is, quite a bit of maybe buzz around him. I'm going to take Kevin Knowles, cornerback from Florida State, as a guy. I liked him when they signed him. I think some people, had him graded to being a guy that could, be drafted and maybe would have gone in the last couple of rounds, and they were able to add him. I think he looks like a Steve Spagnuolo corner, 5'11", 190. Aren't they all exactly like 5'11", 190, 195? He looks the part, and I think, he's only 22 years old. This isn't a 23 or 24-year-old kid. They like the youth part of the equation. I think Kevin Knowles, I think they may be done with the Najee Johnson.
I was going to say, you're cutting somebody there.
I think you are. I think, Chris Roland Smith made the team last year. I think
Roland Wallace. Yeah.
Or Roland Wallace, Chris Roland Wallace. I think they like to, give a guy like, hey, we see upside. Let's get him in for a year. Let's coach him. Let's see what we got. Like, I loved your point about Ethan Driscoll, Sam, because he was kind of a guy that got that shot, and so they looked at him all year. Now are they like, okay, we've seen it. That's the ceiling. Let's go, and we're on to Pole. Right? Like, yeah. I think that may be, what they do at the cornerback spot is they're just always rolling a guy down at the bottom into that spot that they think, okay, let's see if he can reach some of the ceiling. And so,
I think Kevin Knowles is an interesting guy. I think that first of all, this exercise that the three of us just answered was a guy who might be out off the roster that could play their way on over these next 3 games. I would not pick him to make the 53-man. I thought there was a stretch maybe like over the weekend where he had a really good three days or so. And what stands out about him is he plays a slot too. And I've talked a lot about the fact that I think Roland Wallace is going to make the team because he plays the slot, and they don't have a lot of corners who actually do play the slot. The uphill battle for him will be Noah Williams, who's been okay in camp, is going to make the team. He's a 3rd-round pick. He's going to make the team. Fulton's going to make the team. I think Roland Wallace is going to make the team. McDuffie and Watson are on the team. And then Najee Johnson is still getting reps with the wand. And so there's a lot of numbers at that position. Now, they keep a lot of numbers at that position, but there are just a lot of numbers at that position that you start to wonder about the math there.
Yeah. I do. And listen, they're off and can play their way on.
Yeah.
He needs to play well for that to be the case. Tell me, who needs to play well to stay on the roster? Jeff, you get a guy.
We all have the same questions. Answer to that one, don't we? FAU? Is there anybody else?
I think there's others.
Well, I think he's number one. He clearly is. He's got to be hanging by a thread, and it's when you go out and draft an edge rusher in the 3rd round. You bring back some guys. You extend Mike Dana. I just don't see, talking about the math, I don't see where is the support or the faith being shown towards him at this stage of his career. I don't know. He's going to have to play lights out in these games. Really, he's going to have to do a number of amazing things, not just to impress the Chiefs, but I think the fan base. I don't think there's, as a local kid, you want to give him a shot, but I just don't think I think he's going to be playing somewhere else unless he does a lot of great things in the next 3 games.
Okay. How about you, Sam? Who's got to play well to stay on the roster?
Yeah, I think I view this. First of all, Felix is a great answer to this. I view this as like who's on the roster, but if they do nothing in this preseason, do you start to worry that they could be like a surprise cut? And to me, the answer is Elijah Mitchell at running back. I have not seen a lot of burst from Elijah Mitchell during this training camp. And he was injured last year. And I think the thought was that, he could have like a Jerick McKinnon like revival, not role on this team, but I think like that sort of he missed a year, and now he looks close to his old self. I don't think that Elijah Mitchell looks close to his old self yet, but the Chiefs thought that this might not be an instantaneous thing because of that time miss, that it might require some patience. And I just think if he goes through 3 preseason games and does nothing, I wonder. Like I said, this question to me is guys who I think are on the 53, but do you start to wonder if they don't perform in the preseason games? And that's where I'll be with Elijah Mitchell. I'll start to wonder, is that spot absolutely secured?
Yeah, I think that's a good point, because I think a lot of us thought, oh, okay, one, Tommy Moe, we don't think he's a Jerick McKinnon clone, and the body type is nothing like Jerick McKinnon. Sorry, Tommy, but you're way off on that one.
Why apologize?
That's fair. Listen, I think like Najee Johnson, Josh Williams, I'll stay with the cornerback spot. I think both of those guys, like I do think there's
a good one.
There's real good competition, I think there, and depth, and they're not all going to make it. And so I think Josh Williams has kind of had a spot on this roster because he was part of the Fab Five. They've all kind of been together. Well, it's time for the Fab Five to step up.
And great special teamer.
Yeah,
but Josh Williams is if we had an extra question on here, which if any of us had thought of this ahead of time, we would have added on here, which is who might get traded out, because we've got a question later. Who might they target? Who might get traded out? Josh Williams to me is the runaway answer to that. Somebody else will value him because of the athleticism, because of the draft pedigree, because his floor is he's a good special teams player. But you brought up a great name there, Soren, that not a lot of us are talking about, and that should be concerning, I think, for Joshua Williams. He's not had any reps with the ones out here.
Yeah, I mean, I think he needs to, when they put him in there, he needs to make a play. So let's talk about who should play the most snaps on Saturday. Now, this is one where I'll say, Jeff, I think it's obvious on this one. We'll see if you go where I
think. Really?
Yeah, this one's the obvious one.
You about Kingsley or Josh Simmons?
Yeah, Kingsley.
Okay. That we'll agree on that one. One of those two, but I imagine Simmons, given his health issue, you don't want to be him out there too much. But Kingsley certainly got to go out and do some positive things at a position that, look, the Chiefs are high on him. I think everybody else who's watched the Chiefs is wondering what he really is. And we may not get a great assessment of that, but the reps against real live competition. And the Cardinals have spent a lot of money and done a lot of things on their defensive line to ramp it up. I think it'd be a good chance for see how he rates against that bunch.
Yeah. All right, Kingsley, why? I mean, besides the obvious
slam dunk answer, but I just wanted to add one more name to the list is I want to see Brashard Smith on special teams. And he's not been their best special teams performer in training camp. But to me, that's Nico Remigio's path to the roster unless you can develop a better special teams returner. And so try it. See if you can develop a better special teams returner and give Brashard Smith, I think Dave Tope's got the inclination. This guy gets a kickoff, this guy gets a kickoff, this guy gets a kickoff, and this guy gets a kickoff. I think you should have Brashard Smith returning back there and see what you actually have out of the return game, because that could make an entire roster decision based on your answer over these 3 preseason games to that question.
Yeah. Listen, I would play Kingsley Suamataia until he played well. Like, there's no way, like, he needs to play. I think he's going to play like 6 snaps.
So it's going to be like a Herb Brooks thing. And like after the game where you just got him out on the field by himself again. Yeah.
on the sled. Yeah. Blowing the whistle. Yeah. Again, line drills.
I'm joking. He's done some good things in camp.
Yeah. So you are positive on him coming in.
I am uncertain on Kingsley. He's who I wrote down to this question for all the reasons Jeff mentioned. I just wanted to add some variety to our answers there.
Yeah. I think that's fair. I mean, I think that's one of the mistakes they made. They might have had a better idea what they had. I mean, I almost wonder, were they like, no, we know he sucks. We don't want to expose it. Because they did kind of hide it from Baltimore. Baltimore didn't just go full at him the way the Bengals did. By the second game, they had it figured out. But I mean, if you think he's going to be the guy, I think they've got better answers now behind him at guard than they did behind him at left tackle. So, but like he's got to play, and he needs to play well. And I would have him out there working until he proves that he can play at a high level. And otherwise, what are we doing here, right? Like I don't understand why you'd be messing around and not getting him the work he needs to be sharp. He has almost no experience. When Andy Reid, I almost giggled. Was it at OTAs or was it at the very beginning of camp? He's like, well, of course, and he got experience last year in the game against the Broncos. I'm like, really? That's experience in your book? Okay. All right. We'll see how it goes. Are the Chiefs going to need to add to this roster? We'll talk about that after you hear from our friends at Frontier Justice.
This episode of Red, Gold, and Bold is brought to you by Frontier Justice, where freedom is a lifestyle grounded in safety, responsibility, and respect. With locations in Lee Summit, Missouri, Kansas City, Kansas, and Jenks, Oklahoma, Frontier Justice offers firearms retail, a premier indoor shooting range, and training all under one roof. Whether you're new to shooting or a seasoned pro, you'll find expert staff, top-tier gear, and a strong sense of community. Faith, family, freedom. That's what Frontier Justice stands for. Visit frontier-justice.com to learn more.
Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, serving KC for more than 40 years, voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers, helping people with serious injuries from car accidents, work accidents, falls, and other personal injuries. Northland Injury Law doesn't get paid unless they get money for their client. Don't wait, get compensated now. If you have a case, text HURT to 22222. That's HURT to 22222, or call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-4878. The choice of a lawyer is an important one and should not be based solely upon advertisements. All right, what do you think, Jeff? They're going to need to add to this roster? I mean, like, as we come through it, are we going to be looking at Samaje Perine, Juju Smith-Schuster being picked up? And if so, where do you think they might be looking?
Well, I would think running back. I think I've not been happy or crazy about their running back situation. If Elijah Mitchell has been as disappointing as Sam says, and Brashard Smith can't step up, I think that's an area where they would have to think about making a move. And defensive tackle, depending on how it plays out, that coming into camp, that was a question mark. And I think it's still going to be a question mark as we come down the stretch. I mean, it's going to be hard to, feel good about what they have outside of Chris Jones and some of those other guys don't step up in the preseason. So I took two areas, but I think those are the most obvious ones.
Sam?
Yeah, same two spots. I mean, I guess maybe a tad more specific on the defensive tackle. I think a run-plugging defensive tackle. And I think the opportunity is there for some of their younger guys like Fabian Lovett, who left practice today and then returned. I think the opportunity is there. If he performs, I mean, he could have been an answer to the question that I answered Pole, a guy who's off the roster that could play their way on. Like the opening's there for someone who's a good run plugger to make the roster. But then, the more specific aspect of the running back is somebody who can catch the ball out of the backfield. And that's what they gathered last year with Samaje Perine. He fell into their lap. I don't know that you'll have an option like that fall into your lap, but I absolutely think that the Chiefs will be in that market as cutdown day nears and after it expires too.
Yeah, I'm on the same spots, running back and defensive tackle. Defensive tackle, they've grabbed defensive tackles before. And who was the guy they grabbed from the Raiders last year?
Well, they actually had somebody on their 53-man roster, like most of the year last year. It was Marlon Tuipulotu, and
right.
Well, don't say right. We don't. Nobody knew who that was last year.
No.
The Raiders guy was a big guy, right? I remember he was like a massive player.
No, the Raiders guy that I was talking about, I'm going back here to try to find, was.
What happens if Derek Nottie shakes loose?
He'll be back. Who was it? Or is it 2 years ago? Who was the guy, the LSU D tackle? You remember who I'm talking about?
I thought he was a big guy, but I remember them picking up somebody who didn't do anything.
He was. Am I looking? Let me go later.
Who was the guy they cut loose for all the trouble with the dogs out in Alabama? Was he a defensive?
You're talking about the Clemson kid, right? The Neil Farrell kid.
Yeah,
that was Neil Farrell. Okay,
Yep.
I thought he was an LSU guy.
He was a huge guy, right? He was like 6'4".
No, you're right. LSU is right.
Like
Neil Farrell's also
something
right.
like that.
Yeah.
I'm looking back at old.
They actually gave something up for Neil Farrell.
I know,
if I remember right.
I know.
Well, there's a 7th round pick, something like that.
And now what? We just act like he didn't exist. Like, I mean,
who was the Cardinals defensive lineman they picked up?
Cam Thomas,
an edge rusher.
Yeah. Cam Thomas. I mean, they seem to not be able to help themselves when that time of year comes around. I would think defensive tackle's the spot because I don't think they're going to push. If FAU is off the roster, somebody's beat him off the roster, so I can't see it be an edge. I think it's D tackle, and I do think it's running back. I mean, Spencer Ware came late. You know, they picked up Spencer Ware when he got cut by the Seahawks or got practice squad. Actually, Spencer Ware, I take that back. It might have been 2 or 3 weeks into the year where they signed him active off the Seahawks practice squad.
Damian Williams was a former practice squad guy too.
Yeah. So they've gone after the running back position. So I could see running back. When you go after defensive tackle, I kind of feel like if you're getting a guy, if he's available, they're kind of telling you he sucks.
Yeah.
You know, like Charvarius Ward at corner, they've done that. Okay, you're cutting him. We'll give you the guy we're cutting. For your cut, they've turned him in. They haven't really had success with those, draft crush D linemen to this point. So I would hope they would stay away from that.
There's a reason these guys get cut. Like these aren't typical. Like Samaje Perine's impact on this offense last year is unusual for a guy who gets cut out of camp.
Yeah. So we'll see. I think they'll be scouring it. Would you bet that they will actually end up grabbing somebody, Jeff? Or do you think the roster's deep enough that they won't?
No, I think they will. I think every year they've done it. I think they can't. Yeah, they're going to need to. You can't sit here and say what they have right now is enough to feel good about going into a season.
And you bring up, and I also think that the Joshua Williams name you brought up has been on my mind for a couple weeks now at camp as he plays mostly with the threes. I'm thinking some with the 2s and 3s, I guess I should say. I'm thinking somebody out there is going to find value in Joshua Williams. So I think you could, rather than, hey, let's get a 6th to 7th round pick swap, you could say, what D tackle you plan on cutting out of camp? Because that may be a better match.
Yeah, I think that'll be interesting. Travis Kelce shrugged off retirement. What do you take away from that, Jeff?
I think he's very media savvy. He understands any news that he breaks should happen on his own podcast. That's going to help line his own pockets. And he probably doesn't want to jinx himself or get into that. I think he's at a place now where whatever he says is going to become worldwide news. And so I'm sure he doesn't need that kind of distraction at this point in the season. But I would be shocked if he's playing football after this year. I feel like he's already raised that point of, I think once you're thinking about it, as Bill Parcells said a long time ago, you're already almost there. And so I think he's thinking about it. I think he knows how he wants to relay that news to the public. And I think he wants to take his time and enjoy the moment as best he can.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree. I think there's a chance for this year to really go south.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just because I do agree with that. I've heard Bill Snyder say the same thing when he retired. He's like, well, I was thinking about it. And now when I thought about it, that's the sign to go. And, that's a coach. That's a little different than a player, but almost to a sense, I think it might be more of a player. I remember Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was playing at a pretty high level into his 40s. And then he spent the whole offseason debating. He's like, no, I want to play one more. And he sucked. And he's like, nah, I should have gone. Once he started in, he wasn't going to quit in the middle of it. The team had planned on having him. But, I do think the fact that he's coming in good shape is a good sign, that he was committed to physically being ready to go. But I just wonder, are you going to grind? Do you want to hobble through? Do you want to get up for treatment and do all that as the bumps and bruises accumulate? I think that's a little bit, he's going to have to talk about it because once you say you're thinking about it, you've basically opened it up. You're going to answer that question for the rest of the time you do play. But I don't know. You take anything major away from it, Sam?
Absolutely nothing. I mean, I just thought it was like no news to me, and it's for all the reasons you guys have outlined. We are not going to hear that Travis Kelce is contemplating retirement from a question he answers in St. Joseph, Missouri. And so I'm not going to take away anything he says at the podium with more than a grain of salt, because anything that Travis Kelce wants to announce, he announces on a podcast that's paying him tens of millions of dollars to say stuff like that. It's not going to happen at a press conference in St. Joe.
Yeah, no, I would tend to agree. All right. How about our under the radar player? We've given all kinds of different players and guys, but do you got an under the radar player that's going to walk away getting the most hype? That brings into account, like, it's probably not going to be a backup tackle, right? That's not, the fans aren't going to zero in on the backup tackle. So we're going to get a camp darling, for lack of a better term. Who could come in, Sam, and be the guy that the fans are all buzzing about and excited about come Sunday morning?
Yeah, this was actually the easiest question of all, I think. Jason Brownlee, a wide receiver, has been terrific for the past week or so at camp. Jason Brownlee is who Chiefs fans think Justin Ross was. He can high point the ball in the end zone, but he also, unlike Justin Ross, can create separation and get open. He's 26 years old. He's been, he's bounced around on the practice squad and on the Jets roster. I'm just saying, when you watch him play, that guy's an NFL player. And I can't really find space for him on the Chiefs roster. Somebody should be able to find space for him. And I anticipate that he's the type of guy that'll get a lot of snaps in preseason games, because I could see them thinking, this guy's pretty darn good. Wouldn't be bad for the rest of the league to see that this guy's pretty darn good as well, and potentially try and flip him. And they've done that with receivers in the past. So I would be surprised if he doesn't lead the team in receiving and during this preseason.
Jeff, you got somebody you think everyone's going to be buzzing? Didn't necessarily have to be way off the radar.
I'm going different. I'm going Nico Remigio, and I think that for a different reason, he's fighting for a job. I think he knows that, hey, look, my path here is as a return guy, but I like him when the ball's in his hands. I think he's really good in space, and I think in these preseason games, especially the first one, where he's going to get a lot of reps, a lot of opportunities to make something happen, both as a return guy and the pass game. I think he's got the ability to break some big plays and be explosive and look good. And for whatever reason, they're not super crazy about him in the receiving part of this, but I think that he, again, as a return guy, I like him a lot. And so I imagine he's going to try to do his best, put his best foot forward in these games.
I'm not taking this guy either. Neither one of you guys took Brashard Smith, which is like, if I put that out there on Twitter, I think that's the name you're going to hear the most, because I think that's who people want it to be. Okay. They want to hear that this is we're going to see this is an even better version of Isaiah Pacheco, right? Yeah. Sam, no chance. Like, offensive skill positions are usually the easiest ones to win over the fans' hearts with.
Yeah, I think next year that might be a good answer for this. Or maybe if we're talking about this as the bye week, to me, he just looks like a player who's definitely still learning the playbook, which is that's not atypical for an offensive rookie in this system to still be learning some things. He doesn't look like a player who's playing without thinking to me right now. There are definitely moments where there's a burst there and there's a gear there that other players in the field do not have. You can see why they thought he was worthy of being drafted in the 7th round, but I just don't think he's ready yet.
I'm going to go with Noel Williams. He's a ball hawk type of guy. I think he's going to be in there against backups. I think he's going to have a chance to shine. I think he's going to be a good player. So I think he's got a chance to take advantage of lesser players, lesser quarterback, and make a big play. If he comes away with an interception, everyone's going to be all excited about him, fired up. And I think there's a good chance when you get to those backup quarterbacks. Just like what level do you think he's going to run with? One, not going to run with the ones. Twos?
Yeah, I think he'll get run with the twos. Yeah. That's a good one for all the reasons you said. I mean, he's someone who I think it's also evident he doesn't have everything in Spag's system figured out quite yet. I think there's some hesitation in some of the stuff he does defensively. But what you just said is accurate. Like, his college tape shows that he'll take some chances and he's like a receiver in the defensive backfield. He's able to actually catch the ball. So you're right. All it takes is one interception for a defensive back to be talked about the next day. So I think he's a good pick.
He's also put some pops on some guys. He is some to the point where they're not happy that he did, at least the little bit that I've seen. I was like, oh, okay. So I don't think he's afraid to hit either, and I think that can fire the fans up as well. I think that always gets the fans all excited about things, like, oh, here we go. So, we'll see when it's all said and done. But I think there's a pretty good chance that, we could see him having a pretty good day of it when it's all said and done. Remember, you can always support the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast by, one, hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button. That is always a good way to do it. You can also do it by supporting our great sponsors. Sponsors like our friends at Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated injury lawyers. If you've been hurt in an accident, let them take care of you. That's what they do. They're Kansas City's best. It's Northland Injury Law. Our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. Kansas City's best when it comes to whether it's line striping, building a brand new lot, whatever you need done. If you're a property manager, a property owner, Gann Asphalt and Concrete has you covered. Go to GannAsphalt.com, and our friends at Frontier Justice. Frontier Justice with locations in Jenks, Oklahoma. As we know, we've got Chiefs fans listening all over Oklahoma, but also in Lee Summit, Missouri, Kansas City, Kansas. Frontier Justice offers firearms retail, premier indoor shooting range, and training, all under one roof. You can learn more by going to frontier-justice.com. For Jeff Chadiha of the NFL Network, Sam McDowell of the Kansas City Star, I'm Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us here on the Red, Gold, and Bold